In this image, or in this video, what we're going to look at is take this image and we're going to make a selection, but we're going to do it based upon color rather than going into some of the other functions that we looked at, like select and mask, which is basically kind of doing it with color, but just another function just so you have options. So we're going to select on this image and we're going to select and then go to color range. Now from here you'll notice a couple things. One, you can kind of use a preset thing, so for example reds, but I didn't really select enough here and I really can't add to that. I just kind of have to deal with what's there. So we're going to use this thing called sampled color. And we want to, I'm going to click on image first just so we can kind of get the image in this preview. We want to make sure localized color cluster is checked. We also want to make sure that this eyedropper plus is checked. Because if it's not, I can only make single selections, right? So it's just making my selections based upon sampled color. But when I add plus to it, you can see I can start to add to that selection, which is what we really would like to do. So in here you can also change your preview, right? You can change it to black matte, grayscale, so you can kind of just see what that is. You can do none if you want, but we really want to see what this selection would look like. So I'm going to go through and you can actually click and drag instead of clicking multiple times is what I'm doing. So you can't go into this image and do it. You really have to do it through this little preview window that's here. And then I'm going to go to where selection is, because that actually gives me a better base where I can kind of click and drag some of this stuff in here. Right? So you can see I'm just kind of clicking and dragging. Oh, it will let me do it. So you can kind of click within this image as well. So if you're starting to see some things, you may want to switch to black matte and say, okay, well, it's not grabbing that. Let's go ahead and finish that selection. So you can see I'm dragging within here. This is looking pretty good. So from that, let's go ahead and do OK. And you can see it's made a selection based upon that. And we'll just do Command J. And there it is. There's your selection of that kind of copied out. What's nice about that is I can now create, let's say you wanted to create a flower pattern or border with that. Now I have this image kind of selected out. Right, so I can kind of manipulate that, and if I wanted that. Right, I'm not saying you should do this, but this is what's nice about that. Right, so some of you may be saying as you're watching this, well, what about select and mask? Doesn't that kind of do the same thing? Let's take a look to see how it handles this image. Right, so we're going to go ahead and select inside of here. And it does a pretty good job. But let's say I don't want this stuff that's here. Okay, so let's see what it's done. Pretty good, but you can see it's still fuzzy around there, and yeah, you can manipulate select and mask, but you can see color range actually made a better, cleaner selection. So that's why color range is so great. So sometimes you'll use select and mask, sometimes color range is the best thing, sometimes replace color is better, right? So it's just really kind of knowing where and when to use each selection.